Most people don't fail because they're stupid. They fail because their intelligence is uncontrolled. They think intelligence means knowing facts, having opinions, or sounding smart. But real life doesn't reward that. Real life rewards intelligent restraint, intelligent timing, intelligent silence, and most people never develop it. Look closely and you'll notice a pattern. People explain themselves too much, they react too fast, they trust too early, they get emotional in moments where intelligent distance would protect them. They feel guilty when they shouldn't, they feel confident when they should be cautious, and then they're shocked when they're ignored, used, replaced, or quietly pushed aside. They call it bad luck, they call it betrayal, they call it toxic people. But it's none of that. It's a lack of dangerous intelligence, a lack of understanding how people think, test, and take advantage when given access. Then there's another type of person. You don't always notice them at first. They don't rush to speak. They don't reveal their thoughts easily. They don't react the way you expect. And because of that, people treat them differently. They hesitate around them. They explain themselves more. They test less. These individuals don't dominate conversations, but they control situations. They don't chase respect, yet they receive it. They move slower, but they move further. This isn't confidence. This isn't charisma. This is disciplined intelligence, a sharp, controlled, and dangerous kind. It's the intelligence that knows when not to speak, when not to explain, when not to react. It understands that people watch more than they listen and test more than they admit. It understands that the moment others can fully read you, your intelligence becomes predictable, and predictability is weakness. It understands that attachment creates pressure points, and pressure points get exploited. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology put names to it. He didn't write about how people should behave. He wrote about how they actually behave. He saw that those who survive and rise are not the loudest, the kindest, or the most emotional. They are the most intelligently disciplined. They control themselves first. And because of that, they are difficult to control. Dangerous intelligence isn't about manipulating others. It's about not being manipulated. It's about building a mind that cannot be rushed, guilted, or emotionally cornered. A mind that stays intelligent under pressure. A mind that sees traps before stepping into them. If you've ever felt like people underestimate you, take advantage of your openness, or only respect you once you pull back, this is why you are playing honestly in a world that rewards intelligent strategy. In this video, I'm going to break down 7 ruthless laws that sharpen your intelligence and harden your thinking. These laws are uncomfortable. They don't flatter you, but they work, and once you see them, you won't be able to unsee them. Before we go, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My intelligence is controlled. Law 1, never allow people to clearly see your position. The moment someone fully understands where you stand, how you think, or what you want, they gain the ability to adjust against you. Clarity feels honest, but in the real world, clarity often becomes exposure. Exposure creates leverage, and leverage is rarely used in your favor. Most people expose themselves without realizing it. They explain their decisions before anyone asks. They clarify their intentions to feel safe. They justify their silence, their choices, even their boundaries. They believe being understood will protect them. It does the opposite. Once your inner logic is visible, you become predictable. Once you are predictable, you are manageable. Dangerous intelligence moves differently. It does not rely on lies or theatrics. It relies on absence, saying less than expected, revealing only what is necessary, leaving space where others feel compelled to fill the silence. This is not about playing games. It is about protecting position. Every unnecessary word gives someone data. Every explanation hands over context, and context is power. When people cannot place you, something shifts. They begin to hesitate. They overthink. They project assumptions that say more about them than about you. While they are guessing, you are watching. While they are reacting, you are calculating. This imbalance quietly transfers control without confrontation. Machiavelli once said, "He who knows how to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." What most people miss is that deception does not always require falsehood. Often it requires restraint. Not revealing is enough. Silence, when deliberate, is more powerful than persuasion. This law also shields you from emotional pressure. Manipulation depends on visibility. Guilt works when hesitation is seen. Shame works when attachment is exposed. Urgency works when desire is obvious. When your internal state is unreadable, these tactics fail. There is nothing to grip, nothing to pull, nothing to threaten. People respect what they cannot easily access. They fear what they cannot predict. They approach carefully what does not respond on command. This is not dominance through aggression. It is authority through uncertainty, quiet, controlled, and unsettling to those who rely on influence. Resisting the urge to explain will feel uncomfortable at first. Your instincts will push you to clarify, to correct, to defend. That impulse is emotional reflex, not intelligence. Each time you override it, you strengthen discipline. Each time you choose silence over justification, you retain ownership of your position. Over time, the results compound. People stop probing. They stop demanding answers. They become cautious around you without knowing why. You are no longer easy to read, easy to rush, or easy to corner. Not because you became intimidating, but because you became contained. This law does not make you cold. It makes you unreachable by manipulation. It does not make you dishonest. It makes you selective. You still speak when it matters. You still act when necessary. But nothing leaks out accidentally. Nothing is offered to earn approval. Dangerous intelligence begins here. Before strategy, before influence, before execution, there must be opacity. If others cannot see your full outline, they cannot strike accurately. They swing at assumptions while you remain intact. End this law by fixing this thought in your mind. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I reveal nothing early. Law 2, control over perception. Most people think transparency is a virtue, that being open, candid, and available earns respect. In reality, it often does the opposite. The more you reveal, the more others can manipulate, predict, and ultimately use against you. Dangerous intelligence understands that discretion is strength and opacity is armor. The law of inverse transparency teaches that selective disclosure is power. Information is currency. Like money, it must be spent with purpose. Do not hand it out freely, for once given, it cannot be recalled. Every fact you reveal, every motive you share, every weakness you expose, is an opportunity for others to calculate against you. Conversely, withholding selectively forces them to wonder, to speculate, and in that gap they lose control. They are left chasing shadows while you maintain clarity. This law is not about lying or deception. It is about being the keeper of your own story. You're not obligated to explain yourself at every turn. You're not required to justify your decisions, defend your strategies, or expose your calculations. Instead, you reveal in layers intentionally, strategically, and only when it serves your purpose. By controlling what others can see, you shape their assumptions and guide their expectations without uttering a. Observe those around you. Notice who overshares, who justifies constantly, who spills details to seek approval. These are the ones who can be moved, influenced, and undermined. They are open books and everyone has a pen. Now consider the person who speaks sparingly, who answers questions without excess, who leaves gaps in their narrative. That person commands attention. That person becomes unpredictable. That person operates from a place of quiet authority because others never know what is coming next. In practical terms, this law changes the way you handle interactions. When negotiating, never reveal your bottom line prematurely. When forming alliances, never display all your capabilities at once. When facing opposition, never show your hand before the moment is right. Timing and restraint convert hidden knowledge into leverage. People may assume they know you, but assumptions are far weaker than facts, and they always carry risk. You learn to live in the gray space between their perception and your reality. And in that space lies control. Affirmation reinforces the habit. I want you to drop this in the comments. I control what they see. Speak when necessary. Reveal when useful. Leave silence where curiosity can work for you. In doing so, you are no longer reacting to expectations or pressures. You are shaping the field before the game even begins. Mastering this law builds confidence and invisibility simultaneously. You are present without being exhausted by constant scrutiny. You are influential without needing to justify every move. You move like a shadow, present but unreadable. And in that unreadability, you are untouchable. Your opponents, observers, and even allies must negotiate the unknown. This gives you room to act decisively while others hesitate, unsure of your intentions or limits. Every interaction becomes an exercise in subtle authority. The less people know, the more they listen. The less they predict, the more they react. Your influence grows silently, almost imperceptibly, until it becomes undeniable. Transparency may feel comforting, but selective opacity makes you untouchable. At the end of this law, remember, control over information is control over power. Protect your core, reveal only when necessary. Let others guess and let them expend energy trying to uncover what you already understand. Your intelligence becomes invisible yet formidable. Law 3. Pragmatic empathy. Many people misunderstand empathy as mere kindness or emotional sympathy. They think it's about feeling someone else's pain or agreeing with their perspective. Dangerous intelligence turns this notion on its head. Empathy, when used strategically, becomes a tool for precision and influence. It is not about being soft or agreeable. It is about reading people as clearly as a map, understanding their motivations, fears, and desires so that you can act decisively and without interference. Pragmatic empathy is the ability to see beyond words and detect the mechanics of behavior. Every person operates from a framework shaped by experiences, insecurities, and ambitions. If you approach interactions only from your viewpoint, you remain blind to the hidden levers that control outcomes. The ruthlessly intelligent person examines the why behind actions, not merely the what. They recognize that a harsh comment, a boast, or a passive-aggressive act is never random. It is a signal, a window into needs, priorities, and weaknesses. Observing these cues gives insight that others overlook, and insight is power. Machiavelli once said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few feel what you are." This is the essence of pragmatic empathy. Understanding the internal landscape of others allows you to navigate social currents without being swept away by them. You learn to respond in ways that align with their logic, while remaining true to your own purpose. In practice, this law is applied constantly. When someone resists your ideas, you do not react with frustration. Instead, you identify the underlying cause, fear, pride, uncertainty, and address that, not the surface argument. When negotiating, you frame proposals to match the other person's motivations, not your assumptions. When conflict arises, you do not get entangled in emotional battles. You map the incentives and pressures guiding behavior and leverage that knowledge strategically. This does not make you manipulative in a petty sense. It makes you precise. You conserve energy, minimize resistance, and create outcomes efficiently. Pragmatic empathy also separates comprehension from agreement. You can fully understand why someone behaves destructively without condoning it. You can recognize the forces that drive betrayal, arrogance, or obstruction without becoming a victim of them. This awareness transforms irritation into calculation, distraction into foresight, and confrontation into an opportunity to advance. It is the intelligence of observing the invisible gears while others focus on the spinning wheels. Affirmation reinforces this law. I want you to drop this in the comments. I read before I react. Rehearse it internally whenever you face tension. Notice the subtle patterns of speech, body language, and timing. The details that go unnoticed by emotional responders become your advantage. You become a silent strategist in every interaction, moving deliberately while others react impulsively. Pragmatic empathy builds calm dominance. While others flail emotionally, you operate with clarity. You anticipate moves, prevent traps, and exploit opportunities with minimal exposure. You are not just responsive, you are proactive, shaping interactions to your benefit without being obvious. Others may believe they're in control, but in reality, you guide the path with subtle, invisible influence. This law transforms perception into leverage. Your understanding is your weapon. Your patience is your shield, and your strategic application is unstoppable. Master it, and you no longer experience frustration at human behavior. Instead, you see it as a system, predictable, navigable, and conquerable. Law 4. Sovereign psychology. Most people live as colonies of their own emotions, swayed by external forces, tossed around by praise, criticism, or circumstance. Their internal world is a fragile construct dependent on the approval of others, and because of this, they can be controlled, manipulated, and destabilized without ever realizing it. The foundation of ruthless intelligence is building a mind that answers to no one but itself. This is the psychology of sovereignty, an internal kingdom ruled by reason, clarity, and unshakable self-discipline. Sovereign psychology begins with ownership. You must accept full responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. External events may trigger discomfort, but they cannot dictate your judgment unless you allow them to. A mind that is sovereign does not react impulsively. It does not seek reassurance from outside sources. Praise, recognition, and social validation are treated as information, not fuel. Criticism is examined objectively without inflating or deflating your self-worth. Every external influence passes through the filter of your own logic and principles. Emotions are not your enemy, but uncontrolled emotions are a weakness. A sovereign mind observes feelings without surrendering to them. Anger becomes insight, fear becomes data, and desire becomes direction. The disciplined observer never confuses reaction with action. While others lash out, withdraw, or overcompensate, you navigate the situation with calm efficiency. Your inner state becomes a stable platform from which all decisions are measured rather than a storm that determines the path forward. Machiavelli once said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command himself." Commanding yourself is the first step to commanding any environment. When your mind is sovereign, manipulation loses power. Attempts to provoke, intimidate, or influence you are neutralized simply because your core remains unassailable. A sovereign individual is like a fortress. The walls may be observed, but the gates are controlled only by the ruler inside. No external voice or circumstance dictates the movement within. Building this sovereignty requires brutal honesty. You must identify areas where you seek approval, where insecurity dictates behavior, and where fear prevents decisive action. Each concession to external pressure weakens your internal authority. Every decision made from principle rather than validation reinforces your independence over time. This creates a psychological immunity to coercion, gossip, and deception. Sovereign psychology also amplifies resilience. Failures are reframed as lessons, setbacks as feedback, and opposition as a challenge to be analyzed, rather than a verdict to internalize. Your mental state is no longer a battlefield. It is a command center. You can see clearly where to advance, where to retreat, and where to hold ground. Your energy is conserved for strategic moves rather than wasted on emotional turbulence. Affirmation strengthens this law. I want you to drop this in the comments. I am my own ruler. Repeat it internally each day, especially when external pressures rise. Feel the authority in that statement and allow it to govern your thoughts and choices. A mind that is sovereign is dangerous to others because it cannot be manipulated, distracted, or broken. It becomes the anchor in a world of chaos, the calm in storms, and the engine of decisive action. Sovereign psychology is not about isolation or detachment. It is about mastery. It ensures that your decisions are guided by clarity, strategy, and self-trust, rather than the whims of people who do not share your objectives. In this state, you operate from power that is internal, sustainable, and unstoppable. Law 5. Action as argument. Anyone can make promises, give advice, or build elaborate arguments. Most people live in the world of discussion, endlessly explaining, justifying, and debating their intentions. But explanation is weak. Action is undeniable. Execution is the language of power. Results are the proof that your intelligence is more than thought. It is force. In a world obsessed with appearances, your deeds are your reputation, your credibility, and your leverage. This law demands a radical shift. Stop talking about what you will do and start doing it. Every plan, strategy, or idea has two possible outcomes, realized or unrealized. Talking about a result without creating it achieves nothing. Action converts potential into reality. Every completed project, every resolved problem, every visible achievement becomes an argument that cannot be disputed. Competence is demonstrated, not declared. Influence is earned through output, not rhetoric. Machiavelli once said, "Men in general judge more by the sense of sight than by the sense of touch, because everyone can see but few can feel." Your actions are the things people see. Your intelligence is measured by what is tangible, not what is theorized. Execution as argument also simplifies decision-making. When you focus on action, endless debate loses relevance. You no longer expend energy defending opinions, proving ideas, or convincing naysayers. Instead, your energy channels into producing measurable results. This makes life simpler, faster, and more efficient. While others are caught in the cycle of argument, analysis, and hesitation, you are building momentum. Progress itself becomes a barrier that keeps critics behind you. Action as argument transforms risk into clarity. Words can mislead, intentions can confuse, but actions reveal truth. When you act, you either succeed or fail, and both outcomes provide feedback that no conversation can deliver. Failures are valuable. They expose weaknesses, gaps, and miscalculations. Successes are undeniable. They cement credibility, authority, and influence. This law forces you to embrace responsibility. Your results are the only things you truly control. Others may talk, speculate, or judge, but your execution is your domain, independent of opinion. This principle also eliminates the illusion of busyness. Many people confuse activity with accomplishment. Meetings, messages, plans, and discussions create the feeling of progress, but rarely yield results. Ruthless intelligence distinguishes between noise and signal. Action as argument insists that time, focus, and effort are only valuable when they produce real outcomes. This law refines his priorities, directing energy toward moves that produce impact. Everything else is secondary. Furthermore, this law builds momentum in life. Success breeds influence, and influence accelerates opportunity. The person who consistently acts creates a gravity that draws resources, allies, and advantages. In contrast, words alone attract nothing but skepticism. When your actions align with your objectives, you become a living demonstration of intelligence applied. People watch, learn, and follow because results speak louder than anything else. Action as argument is ruthless because it leaves no room for ego-driven debates. Criticism, gossip, or doubt are irrelevant to a person who produces. You stop wasting energy proving yourself verbally. Instead, you let reality prove your skill, insight, and discipline. This law cultivates confidence, efficiency, and undeniable authority. Machiavelli once said, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." In other words, do not cling to promises if action demands a better path. Let results, not rhetoric, dictate your credibility. When you fully internalize this law, your life transforms. You become the person whose presence alone signals competence. Your reputation is built on outcomes. Your influence is earned through deeds, and your intelligence is demonstrated through execution. Law 6, the calculated end. Most people are sentimental creatures. They cling to things long past their usefulness, relationships, projects, habits, or identities because letting go feels uncomfortable. The past has a strong grip, and human nature makes it difficult to sever attachments even when it is clear they are holding you back. Ruthless intelligence recognizes that emotional attachment is often the silent killer of progress. To act with clarity and power, you must learn to conclude what no longer serves your objectives. The calculated end is about assessing situations with a cold, logical lens. Every venture, every commitment, every interaction has a lifespan. Not all beginnings lead to successful middles, and not all middles deserve prolonged investment. A dangerously intelligent person evaluates the cost-benefit ratio with precision. Is this effort moving you toward your goal, or is it draining your resources? Is this partnership still aligned with your values, or is it consuming more than it contributes? Can this project realistically produce the result you need, or is it a distraction disguised as progress? Answering these questions honestly allows you to administer endings decisively without hesitation or regret. Ending something does not mean failure. It means intelligence. It is a demonstration of control over your life and a refusal to be trapped by past choices. It requires courage because most people equate closure with loss. But the truth is that failing to end what no longer works guarantees far greater loss in wasted time, energy, and potential. This law demands that you treat your commitments as assets. If an asset depreciates to the point of no return, you liquidate it. You do not hold on out of nostalgia, guilt, or fear of judgment. You act strategically, prioritizing outcomes over sentiment. The calculated end also applies to identity. Who you were yesterday does not define who you must be today. Habits, beliefs, and routines that once served you may now be obsolete. Ruthless intelligence allows you to shed outdated versions of yourself. This is not a rejection of growth. It is the embrace of evolution. Every decision to end something is an investment in a stronger, sharper future. It frees mental bandwidth, energy, and focus for what genuinely matters. This law teaches the power of timing. There is a precise moment to conclude, and acting too early or too late diminishes effectiveness. Ending too soon may sacrifice potential. Ending too late wastes resources. The intelligent person cultivates awareness to recognize the optimal moment. Observation, experience, and disciplined reflection create the ability to act decisively. Once the decision is made, you do not waver. Hesitation undermines the very intelligence you have cultivated. Machiavelli once said, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." Adaptation requires ending patterns that no longer produce results. To cling to what is familiar is to invite failure. To embrace the calculated end is to harness flexibility without chaos, discipline without rigidity, and clarity without emotional confusion. The calculated end is a shield against decay. It protects your mission, your energy, and your trajectory. It separates the useful from the burdensome, the productive from the distracting, and the essential from the trivial. By mastering this law, you ensure that your life flows toward results rather than stagnation. You are no longer held hostage by past choices. You act in alignment with present realities and future ambitions. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I end what blocks me. Law 7, unshakable focus. Intelligence, no matter how sharp, is wasted when scattered across countless targets. The modern world is engineered for distraction. Every moment is an invitation to fragment your attention. News, opinions, opportunities, people, and obligations constantly compete for your mental energy. Most individuals respond like leaves in a storm, shifting direction with every gust, never building momentum, never achieving depth. Ruthless intelligence rejects this. It demands single-minded concentration on the objective that matters most, the one goal that defines your trajectory. Unshakable. Focus begins with clarity. You must identify your one priority, the result that if achieved renders all other pursuits either easier or irrelevant. This is not multitasking or dabbling in convenience. It is prioritization to the point of obsession. All decisions, interactions, and investments are filtered through this lens. Every yes is deliberate. Every no is a strategic act. A person governed by this law understands that attention is the most valuable currency, and where it flows determines what manifests in reality. Discipline is at the heart of this law. Focus requires saying no to attractive distractions, good opportunities that are not great, and minor emergencies that do not serve the central mission. It means ignoring praise and criticism alike when they pull you away from your path. It demands resistance to the social pressure of being everywhere, doing everything, or keeping everyone happy. In practicing unshakable focus, you cultivate a mental laser capable of cutting through complexity, filtering noise, and producing results that scatter observers cannot fathom. The power of this law lies not just in action, but in the immunity it creates. When your attention is fixed on your core objective, manipulation becomes difficult. Others cannot sway you with drama, gossip, or enticing diversions. Your mental state becomes a fortress, your actions precise and inevitable. Challenges are assessed against a single question. Does this move me toward my one thing? If not, they are discarded without hesitation. This creates speed, momentum, and clarity that others cannot replicate. A quiet yet undeniable dominance in any environment. Unshakable focus is also cumulative. Each day of concentrated attention compounds into results far greater than scattered effort. The distractions that derail others merely strengthen your advantage. While others dabble in many areas, you drill deep into one, creating mastery, influence, and outcomes that appear effortless, but are built on relentless concentration. The results themselves reinforce focus, creating a feedback loop of momentum that makes deviation increasingly costly. Machiavelli once said, "It is double pleasure to deceive the deceiver." A mind with unshakable focus deceives distraction. It moves unseen, uninterrupted, and unstoppable toward its goal. You're not swayed by appearances, trends, or the whims of others. You're not seduced by novelty or idle chatter. Your commitment to your primary objective is absolute, a magnet that aligns resources, energy, and people toward your vision. This law also requires patience. Focused intelligence does not rush. It maintains endurance over time, weathering setbacks and resisting the temptation of instant gratification. Small, consistent steps taken with precision accumulate into enormous advantage. Your life becomes a singular force, an arrow shot with intention, unstoppable once released. Finally, focus is protective. It safeguards your energy, your decisions, and your results. It prevents dilution of your intelligence into meaningless engagements. By mastering unshakable focus, you ensure that your time, energy, and actions are spent only where they matter most. You create a trajectory that is formidable, deliberate, and impossible to derail. Machiavelli once said, "Whosoever wishes to succeed must learn to adapt and concentrate. Your intelligence becomes a weapon, precise and unstoppable. Your life becomes your creation, unfragmented and purposeful." Drop this affirmation in the comments. I focus and conquer. These 7 laws are not habits, tricks, or temporary strategies. They are an operating system for your mind, a framework for intelligence that is deliberate, dangerous, and unshakable. They are the lens through which you see every interaction, every challenge, every opportunity. They are the architecture of a life that cannot be manipulated, derailed, or diminished by the chaos around you. Strategic distance, inverse transparency, pragmatic, empathy, sovereign psychology, action as argument, the calculated end, and unshakable focus. These are the pillars of intelligent power. Do not try to master them all at once. That is the path of frustration and failure. Begin with the law that resonates most deeply with the friction you feel in your life. Apply it with full attention for 30 days. Observe what changes. Observe how people respond differently to you. Notice the shift in your clarity, your decision and the results you create. One law mastered becomes a multiplier for the others. Momentum builds. Your confidence grows. Your intelligence, sharpened by disciplined action, becomes visible, undeniable, and respected. This is not about becoming cruel or manipulative. It is the opposite. It is about becoming so strategically sound, so mentally grounded, so self-possessed that no external force can move you. The world will always test you with deception, distraction, and drama. People will try to control you through fear, approval, or conflict. The weak respond emotionally. The intelligent respond deliberately. You become untouchable because you are anchored in your own laws, your own standards, your own results. Every choice you make now is a declaration. I will no longer be reactive. I will no longer give away my power through overexposure or misjudged empathy. I will no longer be swayed by criticism, praise, or temporary gain. I will act. I will calculate. I will focus. I will end what no longer serves me and double down on what truly matters. I will create a life on my terms, a trajectory that builds strength, influence, and undeniable results. So start today. Pick a law. Practice it relentlessly. Track your progress. Measure your results. Then move to the next. Layer by layer, law by law, your mind becomes a fortress. Your actions become precise. Your outcomes become inevitable. The chaos of the world, the manipulations of the insecure, the traps of short-term thinking, none of it can touch you. You are a force of nature governed by your own code, moving toward your own objectives, with clarity, purpose, and power. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I am strategically unstoppable,